Okay, bring on the sequels. It's time to face off against the nastiest, most destructive, insultingly bad sequels known in animation history. Generally, sequels have a reputation for never being quite as good as the original, but these sequels managed to make the originals worse by their mere existence. So let's check out the top 10 worst animated sequels. And as always, if you do like these movies, that's fine. It's just my usual silly personal opinion, and I'm glad you can enjoy these cartoons when I can't. Anyway, let's do this countdown. Number 10. The Secret of NIMH 2. Timmy to the rescue. For shame, Timmy. This is how you repay your mother for saving your life from pneumonia? With stupid, overly sappy, shrill songs about self-gratification and horribly corny lyrics? I've been more mentally stimulated by Dora the Explorer. Take all that beautiful darkness, edginess, complexity, and depth that the original gave us, and replace it with overly sappy, heinously wholesome song sequences. This isn't even Disney at its worst and cheesiest. It's cheap substitute Disney with artificial additives that will rot your teeth. I don't know exactly what it is about the color pastels that make me so sick to my stomach, but I just wanted to set fire to this whole freaking mouse nation. And the dialogue feels like it belongs in a 10-year-old's Harry Potter fanfic.
I am not the Dewey. I am the doer.
The only part I did like? I kind of liked the plot twist of Timmy's brother Martin becoming the evil villain. I actually found that a wonderfully stupid plot twist.
I can change things with ease. Horns or hair or fin or feather. I control the wind and weather.
At least in the castle, they've done away with those god-awful, sickly sweet pastels. At least we get some nice, ugly greens and browns. Don Bluth gave no support or input for the making of this sequel whatsoever. And it shows. Timmy to the Rescue isn't just an insult to Don Bluth's original movie. It was a knee to the gonads of the original. And for number 9, The Land Before Time 13. The Wisdom of Friends. Really? 13? You say that with a straight face? You're not too ashamed to be assigning numbers after 10? Most sequels are ashamed by 4. They've even already revealed to us the moral of the story in the title. I guess they figured the DVD box is about as far as they get at this point. You'd probably be much more satisfied just looking at this title card for 90 minutes rather than watching the 12th time Littlefoot has overstayed his welcome. As I mentioned in Worst Animated Movies, I adored the original Land Before Time. So many of Don Bluth's original movies inspired and shaped me growing up. But 13. This is just shameless. Even the narrator sounds like he's rolling his eyes in the recording booth.
Years, and has been home to many different types of creatures.
How am I still being paid to do this for the remaining 3 kids who are actually watching these movies? And even they're fiddling with their iPads while I drone on in my calming, monotone voice. How is Littlefoot even Littlefoot anymore? Why not make him Bigfoot, as Bigfoot the badass Brachiosaurus? We could have a new movie where he takes revenge on the T-Rexes, across the land to avenge his mother's death in gory, action-filled, bloody T-Rex mess. But no, Littlefoot has to learn about the wisdoms, which doesn't even make grammatical sense. Not only that, but Littlefoot's voice actor gets so fed up with the franchise at the end of each sequel that they just continually hire new ones that are willing to be paid even less. At this point, I assume they've just hired some 10-year-old boy they pay with bubblegum. The Land Before Time 13 is a continual droning on of off-key, awkward, mindlessly happy songs, cereal box lessons about being good, and ear-piercingly high-pitched voice acting. And the 14th movie is already out. Ah, gee, forget it. Let's just move on. And for number 8, Shrek 4D. I have mixed thoughts about the original Shrek. Hell, I have mixed thoughts about DreamWorks in general. So Shrek 4D wasn't just a slap in the face. It was a knee to the groin, followed by an entourage of rotten eggs to my flailing body. The entire movie is basically just one long scene of the creators going, "Ooh, look at this 3D! Ooh!"
Aw, what's wrong, princess? You shouldn't be this unhappy until years into the marriage.
Well, that's a great message for your kids, isn't it? All marriages are doomed to be miserable. Just screw you, DreamWorks. And Donkey just won't shut up. I like Eddie Murphy, but they gave him such a horrendously lousy script this time that they managed to make him obnoxious by 80 seconds into the movie. The story is basically the ghost of Farquaad wants to kill Fiona so she can be his ghost bride. That sounded kind of interesting on paper, but geez, they managed to make it tacky. Shrek 4D is just a paper-thin premise, stuffed full of catchphrases and pointless 3D. It's just pure, undiluted animation white noise. And the 7th worst animated sequel is Hoodwinked 2. Well, to start with, the lip-syncing is about on par with the worst animated mockbusters. The characters have this creepy, ceramic, ugly, not-to-be-swallowed look to them. The jokes are as flat and flavorless as a dried-up tea bag. And the colours have the consistency of sewage. Due to the minuscule budget of Hoodwinked 2, the creators were forced to get their animation imported from the Philippines. It's got minor improvements from the creator's previous project, Dougal, but being better than one of the worst animated movies of all time is not exactly high praise. Full of lousy pop culture one-liners, this movie feels like a forgettable product of the times, trying desperately to imitate DreamWorks. The plot's basically that Hansel and Gretel are evil masterminds that have stolen Granny's great truffle recipe, which Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf have to get back. Well, I admit I've never heard that version of Red Riding Hood before. Despite the movie's consistent attempts to throw in a flurry of movement and fast-paced action scenes, my eyes long glazed over from boredom before the credits roll by. It feels like Hoodwinked 2 has followed the DreamWorks formula by the books, but I just have no interest whatsoever in this tacky Shrek remake. And for number 6, The Swan Princess Christmas. This is definitely an example of just because you can make it in CG, doesn't necessarily mean you should. I remember 90s CD-ROM computer games that had better CG than this. While I wasn't personally that fond of the original Swan Princess, at least the original had a sweet enough story and a colourful cast of characters behind it. But this tedious song and dance off-key dubstep musical train wreck makes the original look like a masterpiece by comparison. And the songs are eerily reminiscent of High School Musical, even giving me momentary flashes of the nightmare that was Hannah Montana. Okay, well, maybe not that bad. The thrilling plot this time? Odette is asked to organise her own musical number for Christmas Eve. Her very own musical number? But oh no, the evil sorcerer Rothbart's ghost is using all his evil magic to destroy all the castle's Christmas spirit. Oh god, just give me the chloroform now and put me out of my misery. I mean, really? Destroying the Christmas spirit is your ultimate goal? You are an evil sorcerer with powers beyond the dead. You're essentially a lich. You aren't interested in, I don't know, money, immortality, fame, the crown? You just want to cause G-rated general unrest in the local precinct? And believe it or not, it only gets worse. In the ending, Prince Derek dies. Yay! But Odette's singing makes the great Christmas spirit bring Derek back to life. That's just the stupidest, most wishy-washy, sappy, confounded, lame plot twist I've ever heard. I'm done. F-minus movie. See me after class. And the 5th worst animated sequel is Beauty and the Beast, Belle's Magical World. Ugh. There are a lot of garbage Disney direct-to-DVD sequels, but none are quite as nauseating and pointless as Belle's Magical World. But I know I've discussed this one before in worst Disney movies, so I'll keep it brief. But this one is just so bad compared to the original. There's a reason this made it to the worst Disney movies. Comparing the animation to the original is like a chef comparing perfectly roasted turkey to roadkill. The characters have gone from some of the most believable, lively, intriguing characters in Disney to even more paper-thin, shallow characters than Barbie and Ken dolls. Beast really says it all in one line.
I will never apologize!
You know what? No. I refuse to admit this is the same characters from Beauty and the Beast. They're just some evil doppelgangers trying to capitalize on the under fives, who didn't watch Beauty and the Beast anyway. In my opinion, this is the worst Disney sequel ever produced. And given the foul reputation of Disney direct-to-DVD sequels, that is against some stiff competition. And coming in at number 4, Rugrats Go Wild. I actually watched Rugrats Go Wild in theaters as a kid, so this was the one I was dreading watching. Idiotic and cringeworthy at every single turn. Very few people recommended this one, but oh God, this movie was horrendous. I saw it once at 11 years old, and have never since forgotten how cringingly stupid it was.
He'll get us out of this scrape.
Does Kitty want to dress up in dolly clothes and take a ride in Nanny's truck?
I was so traumatized by the sheer vapidness of this movie that I did not touch Rugrats again for 15 years. Fortunately, I was very pleasantly surprised watching Rugrats again years later. Rugrats is, at its best, an endearing, creative, cute cartoon that appeals to both kids and adults. But at its worst, it is incredibly awkward, unpleasant, unfunny, and gross. And Rugrats Go Wild is most definitely Rugrats at its worst. We are constantly bombarded by bad, corny musical numbers that would make the Care Bears cringe. It only plays specifically to those who can find fanboy and chum-chum entertaining. Our Rugrats and the family are off on an unexpected boat trip, only to have to abandon ship and life raft to a strange exotic island, where they team up with the wild Thornberries. Who woulda thunk it? Along the way, Angelica will sing a song about hope on her karaoke machine. And yes, that is just as corny, stupid, and cringeworthy as it sounds.
We can hold on through the night. I know we can.
And adults will act like 3-year-olds in some of the most cringe-inducing animation my mind can conceive in memory. It's like watching a bunch of shrill kids run around with ice cream cake at a birthday party. I'm happy for them, but honestly, I'd rather be digging my own grave than attending that party. It was poorly written and oh so cringeworthy. Never again will I watch Rugrats Go Wild. Ever. And the third worst animated sequel is Happily Never After 2, filled with tacky, mockbuster-like CGI and animated animals that look like they came out of a Happy Meal toy box.
Right? Everyone thinking
Okay, if my mom had ever given me that look, I'd have put myself to bed without dinner. She looks like she's eating her soul rather than looking at her. This animation is dangerously close to the food fight category.
His wife, Queen Grace, who was big time beautiful.
Okay, first, that is not beautiful. I've seen more attractive things in the contents of my handkerchief. Secondly, what does big time beautiful even mean? Is this another moment where I'm simply out of touch with the youths? Or are you just making up words, movie? The way the Queen's hand flollops around the window looks so unnatural that it looks more like she's flailing a mutant tentacle around. The story is like a teenage family drama, only with this strange dilution of fairy tale nonsense mixed in. Snow White becomes a rowdy, partying teenager after her mother dies. So the king remarries. Oh no! Boring hijinks ensue. I honestly didn't mind the original Happily Never After. It was a little dull, but I kinda liked the concept of these strange administrators of all the good and evil in the world being controlled by one small group. But Happily Never After 2 was an ugly, tentacle-like abomination with nothing but a tedious family feud teenage hijinks plot to back it up. And the second worst animated sequel is Tentacle Eno. How do you top this? Making a terrible sequel out of already one of the worst animated movies of all time. I've mentioned this one before as well though, so I'll keep it brief. The original Titanic animated movie was universally panned by critics. So naturally, the Italian creators said, "We need a sequel, what could possibly go wrong?" So they made a strangely coloured, choppy, broken animated mess that might have once passed in some distant developing country as animation, and wrote one of the most nonsensical, bizarre stories that West African chimpanzees have ever been assigned to write. After surviving the Titanic, let's have Rose and Jack find Atlantis. Then let's fill Atlantis with shrill-voiced mermen, purple seahorses, and talking toys.
Fabulous! Fabuloso! I'm gonna knock your socks off!
And let's complete our broken garbage heap with a Broadway rapping shark. Then the talking toys go to war with some whaling guys from the last movie. And I think they're trying to keep their elixir to breathe underwater safe too. The movie is such a continual barrage of random nonsensical events that even Wikipedia couldn't write more than 3 sentences on it. Just looking at Tentacle Eno is an exhausting experience. Why is there a springy talking toy doing a song and dance number with some choppily framed Hawaiian girls? What sense does any of this make? Tentacle Eno had all the acting talent of a Tommy Wiseau film, and a story that was a completely jumbled, cluttered, and nonsensical steaming pile. And before we get to number 1, I'd like to give the usual quick, dishonourable mentions. Happy Feet 2. This one was recommended by a few people, and it just couldn't quite make my list. The animation was fine, the story was relatively epic, and I actually found the global warming subplot kind of interesting. It feels pointless and it does meander along, but I gave it a pass. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. This one gets a lot of hate, and honestly, after watching it, I didn't think it was that bad. Its follow-up story is a little strange, but there are far worse sequels out there. It still had the nice bright colours and the innovation of the original. It was just a bit poorly executed. Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. Ah, man. This is another case of pulling out all the original depth, emotion, and energy of the original, and replacing it with a sappy, flimsy plot about Quasimodo getting a girlfriend. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for Quasimodo finding love. But did it have to be done with such painfully high cheese levels? A Car's Life 2. I know, right? How could they possibly make a sequel out of this? Yet alone 3 sequels? But it actually looks slightly better than the original. I mean, it's still about the equivalent improvement to King Kong eating Jane's lipstick, but it's an improvement nonetheless. I think we've given this animated abomination enough attention as is, so I gave it a skip. Oh boy. Is it already time we visit here again? The worst cartoons of all time? For our number 1 choice, we once again have to travel to some darker territory, a place I'd hoped I'd never have to visit again. Just a note, there is a bit more animated violence and crude humour in this one than usual, so just a heads up. And the number 1 worst animated sequel of all time is Drawn Together, the movie. How do you make a sequel to one of the most controversial cartoons of all time? By making the equivalent to a massive dump on your boss's desk as their way of saying, screw you for cancelling us. As much as I loved the original Drawn Together series, this thing remains among the worst cartoons of all time. But the reason is because it wants to be. Drawn Together isn't so much of a movie, as it is a continual middle finger to the network and viewers that voted to cancel the original show. Drawn Together movie was essentially an underground project to make an effectively unwatchable sequel. The creators knew the network had cancelled them, so they did everything within their power to make the most offensive, grotesque, hideous sequel they could come up with. It's essentially the animated equivalent of someone taking a dump on their boss's desk after being fired. Every moment of this movie, every single piece of dialogue is designed to be tasteless. At any moment, any time, the cast will in some way be giving the middle finger to the viewer. The animation was done up through Macromedia Flash on a shoestring budget, making it just acceptable enough to assure viewers were as revolted as possible by the death jokes, fecal jokes, decapitation jokes, colostomy jokes, corpse jokes, violation jokes, and violation of corpse jokes. If you can think of a vile off-color joke, chances are Drawn Together movie will not just have used it, but spat on it, stepped on it, then defecated on it twice for certainty. The movie is completely unstructured, and it very much feels like the writers were just making up lines as they went along. The characters seem to just run from scene to scene trying to avoid being erased, until they get to make a point land. It's like we're watching the writers get bored of their own movie. At one point, the characters literally pause the video for a good solid 5 minutes, seemingly just to annoy viewers. How do you even get away with that? And in case anyone was still watching by the 40-minute mark, they create a song continually telling the viewer to suck their lady parts.
Why don't you suck it? Why don't you suck it? Why don't you suck my little tail?
A part of me admires that the creators were bold enough to make this statement. But the steaming pile of filth that came out of this boldness was so abysmal, so horrifying to the eyes and ears, that I can't think of a worse sequel that exists. I personally consider Drawn Together the movie the #1 worst cartoon sequel of all time. Although sequels can sometimes feel like a cash-in, many sequels in recent years have broken new ground and expanded their characters and universes even further. Sequels like Kung Fu Panda 2 and Toy Story 2 and 3 improved upon the original, continuing the brilliance of the original movies to a whole new generation. And I think with examples like this, the bar for animated sequels is a little bit higher than it was before, and I think we'll see improvements in upcoming years. Do you think I missed a particular sequel? I looked as carefully as I could, but I still expect I missed a fair few. If you have any thoughts on them, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.